Hi, greetings and welcome. As I mentioned on my last vlog in Hungary, 1991, winning the second day would have normally won me the individual gold medal, but as I said, things had changed. There were a couple of years previously where it's all determined over the 2 days, and fair dues to Bob Nudd, he went on to win it for the second time. And as I said, Kevin Ashurst, I think that was he was second. That's so it's about 3 times now he's been second. As I say, great angler. 1991 was the year as well that the internet started to become very popular, and because of my connections with my brother, who'd set up a computer shop, after the Tropical Fish Shop, he basically was repairing computers, and the local Cardiff University asked him to set up an intranet, which led to the internet. And anyway, cut long story short, that's when I set up my www.angling-news.co.uk website. As I said, it was an innovation, it was new, and it reminded me a little bit of when I was going around the shops trying to sell fishing line, the new diameter fishing line. The websites are exactly the same, trying to go around the fishing tackle shops and fisheries saying, look, this is the future. They wouldn't listen, but they were. Perhaps sometimes I see things a bit further than other anglers. Anyway, as I said, it was during that time as well that Doug Hornblow took over as the new manager, and even though my ground bait was just taking off, he behind my back he went he got us a sponsorship for the Welsh team, a company called Masterclass Fishing Bait. So I went against my business interests, if you like. But fair dues to Doug. I mean, as a businessman, he looked at what was on offer, and as I say, this new groundbait company, it was a British company who were trying to basically do what I was doing, and that was trying to break into the European market. But sadly, they didn't last long. Even though we had a good couple of years with them, and they gave us all the groundbait the Welsh team needed, and some clothing. But sadly, they couldn't compete with the big Belgians and the French companies, because I'm sure the continents at the time you could get the raw ingredients a lot cheaper, and of course they had years more experience than the British companies. So anyway, but I'll leave a picture of the Masterclass groundbait on the end, just for you, for people to may remember that old groundbait. Yeah, so as I said, in Enniskillen in 1992, this was the World Championships was being held in Northern Ireland, and as I mentioned before, with all our exploits fishing on the Earn system, we really fancied our chances, especially that a few of the team consisted of the Cardiff Nomads. But as I said, Doug Hornblow, in his wisdom, he decided to to bring quite a big field, a squad to this event. I think there was eight altogether. I'll show you a picture of the squad shortly, because we were quite smartly dressed in them days. Then we all wore the same uniform, from Shimano, and as I say, things were looking up as far as the team were concerned, and as far as the sponsorship was concerned. So that was a big plus. Anyway, coming back to the actual match itself, I think perhaps we were one of the fancy teams, because at the time there was a TV camera crew from the UK, and they were filming the event for the television back home, terrestrial television, and they were following us around, and they were following the England team very closely. And with our exploits, it was quite interesting, because they tried to make a fun sort of film. It was quite good. In fact, I'll see if I got a link on YouTube, and I'll leave that on the end of the video for you to look at, because it was good fun. Yeah, Ian Heaps, I think, was fronting it as well. So yeah, that was good. Anyway, the urn system, as we all knew, was pretty good fishing in areas. However, the Welsh Federation, we were quite disappointed to find that the Irish Federation decided to put it on a stretch of the urn that's hardly ever fished. And you know, as we all know, as a rule of thumb, if bream come in on swims or areas where the bait have previously gone in, well, of course, nothing had gone into this part of the urn that they were going to fish the World Championships on. So anyway, during our practice, we found it very hard indeed, and you know, to catch any fish at all. And we tried all sorts of methods. You know, we even tried snitching, what we call, you know, small fry on the inside with small hooks. You know, we resorted to sort of size 32 hooks and head of a pinky, you know, just to catch a fry, because we knew in some sections that might have to be the case. But anyway, as I said, it was pretty hard all through for most of the teams. Yeah, I think the only sensible method really was the long-range sliding float, which did account for a few bream in our practice sessions. And you know, we thought, well, maybe that's the way to go. This is where I suppose I started to make fishing floats, because you know, sometimes you know, you've got an idea of a design of a float. However, you can't go out and just buy that float, so sometimes you have to make them up. And I suppose this is why I set up my website, by the way, www.goldmedalfloats.co.uk, because I make a range of floats that really are not available, you know, in the shops. Anyway, on this occasion, exactly the same. We needed some really large sort of sliders, in fact missile sliders that we managed to copy from a couple of the teams like Austria and that, who used long-range missile waggler fishing on their venues. So with that in mind, we made a few up, and I made one in particular, a 20-gram missile float, and I called it the Exocet missile float. I'll put a picture on the end for you to look at. As I said, it's in the video actually, so if you do come across that part of the videos, you'll see me showing the camera. Now, as you can imagine, the urn is quite deep in places, and as it's like a steady toe on it sometimes. The team to beat were Italy, because we noticed in practice that their long bolognese rods and their bolognese floats, they were controlling the situation, and you could see that they were out fishing most other teams. So I guess they were the favourites on the year, you know. Even though ourselves in England, we fish it on a regular basis, they come up, as I said, with a bolognese rod and bolognese floats. And as you'll see now in a minute, how successful it was. Yeah, anyway, even the Irish were struggling on their home water, so we thought anything could happen this year. Anyone could win it, and any team could win it. But you know, as I said, the better team normally come through. Anyway, typical rain lashed down on the spectators on the parading of the teams on the day before, on the Friday. And it was quite a dismal day, really. Not many spectators around either to view it. And I remember a funny situation, in fact, when the English team, the whole of the team were covered, trying to hide under one umbrella, which I thought was funny. I took a picture of that, and I'll show you that on the end as well. Anyway, but with all the chaos arriving at the venue the following day on the official bus, most anglers were trudging through thick mud in the field, you know, which clung to our boots, you know, as we got to our pegs. And anyway, as I said, waiting for the arrival to enter into the vision zone, usually about 90 minutes before the start. Now, it was a funny thing happened because the Italian team, true to their form, they found their own way to the venue instead of using the official coach. And of course, the Irish officials tried to get them disqualified, or you know, tried to stop them from taking their tackle into the zones and into the field. But even so, they talked themselves. I think it was Milo talked himself out of it, and they let him in the end. Because it wouldn't have been the same without Italy fishing, you know, especially as they were favourites. Anyway, as I said, Doug Hornblow in his in his wisdom, decided to take 8 anglers. So we knew we were all fishing for our places really during the week, our week's practice. I suppose it was a pretty strong team when you think about it. Richard Baton, of course, myself, Clive Roberts, Spud Murphy, Phil Davis, Eric Humphreys, all part of the world, winning team. Plus there was Howard Williams from North Wales, Steve Hemmings and Gary Swain, so that made up the 8. As I said, I did have my doubts, carrying sort of 8 anglers to that event, and especially seeing Eric Humphreys, because he was struggling in most years fishing, but in fact it was suggested that he was in the team for a particular reason, and I found out later why. But anyway, more about that a little bit later. Yeah, I'm just going to mention something about Eric, because Eric was always a pain in the bum side, because even on the team event on the first day, there was a big argument between him and Mickey Thill from America. All right, I know we haven't got a lot of room in our 10-meter zones, but sometimes the long bolognese rods, you can't fit them in the zone properly. So what happened on that particular year is, just before the match was about to start, apparently, and it's you can actually see this on the film on the on the Irish film that was made, that Eric Humphreys just kicked up a big fuss because Mickey Thill sort of his rod was just over into the zone. It wasn't at all affecting Eric, but Eric in his on his almighty got on his horse and argued all about it, and it was quite a it's quite a big thing at the time, because as I said, it's not a nice thing, world championships fishing, we're trying to be friendly, but Eric is quite a nasty sort of person that he'll argue against anything. Anyway, but I've got to tell you, on the day, Mickey Thill absolutely battered him, the next peg anyway, and so did the chap on the other side. Yes, as I said, the match turned out to be a real crueler, to be honest, throughout, and there was a lot of anglers blanked. I think there was a record 42 anglers were actually blanking on the first day, and which was quite surprisingly, right? When you consider Ireland, is so prolific normally. And I believe half the England team blanked as well, which, as I said, but the Italian team, they've overcome the conditions and they triumph, with their long bolognese rods. They did have a close battle with France, but, it was a huge surprise, as I mentioned early on. An unfancied team of the Channel Islands, who haven't got a coarse fishing venue of their own in their land, not to speak of, except for a couple of big pits, they actually come third overall, winning the bronze medal on the slider. So, as I said, it was really open to quite a lot of people. Yeah, so it was fantastic. As far as the Welsh team concerned, we did actually struggle. For myself, I had a fair match under the circumstances. I did catch on both days, using that special missile float that I designed, for casting the 100 meters, So yeah, I actually come 8th overall, which is not a bad result, individually. But the winner over the 2 days was first time I think it's ever gone outside of Europe, and that was by an Australian lad, Dave Wesson, who was actually born in England, but then he represented Australia because, as I said, he probably moved over there, and he did manage to catch over the 2 days. It was a very low weight. It was only 8.2 kilos. Fair dues to him. It was great. In fact, I had a chat with Dave Weston afterwards about it. A bit more about that in a minute. The second was the Italian goose. I'll try and pronounce this. Cusidi. Anyway, you see at the end when I put it down. And I say, Mick Thill, as I said, he was third, so fantastic. Yeah, so as I said, the individual winner, Dave Wesson, and then Gusardi was second, and Mick Thill, uh, what we call Captain America. He was the captain of the American team, which, as I said, was drawn next to Eric Humphries, who Humphries tried to get disqualified, was third overall. So as I said, it was quite an interesting individual event. And as far as the team event was concerned, Italy, they amassed 94 points, France 97, and the Channel Islands 120. So it just goes to show you that it was really open for anybody's match. Anyway, as I was saying, I got talking to Dave Wesson after, the evening ceremonies, and I was congratulating him, and and I said, and he said it was great, great ambition for him to become a world champion. But do you know what? He's a nice guy, because he did turn around to me and he said, to be honest, Clive, he said, if I could be as consistent as you in the World Championships, then, that's my goal. And I thought, oh, that's an enormous compliment, just coming from a new world champion. I don't know whatever happened to Dave. I think he wrote an article or two for the Hangman papers, but that was the last anyone heard of him. I wonder what he's doing these days. So as I say, it was a bit of a bit disappointing, not only for us but for the England team as well, as I say. But it was a great experience, and anyway, we're all looking forward to next year, because next year, 1993, was back in Portugal, the country where I won the World Championships. Could I do any better, I wonder? Come back on the next vlog and find out.